Hello, 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 and welcome to the Joy of Connection. I'm so excited. Oh my God. All right, I need to calm down. I'm very excited. I'm really happy because I'm finally getting to talk about a topic I've wanted to talk about for so long, and that's sex. Yes, we're going to talk about it. We're going to get deep. So, guys, bring your questions, your concerns. Um, you if you don't want me to mention your name, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't, just let us know in the chat, but then everyone else will know. So I don't know, just let me know, You could maybe WhatsApp me, but I'm not really checking it. So we're just going to go with it, but I'm really excited. But before I go there, I wanted to say happy Earth Day. Today is officially Happy Earth Day. I don't know how many years it is, but we've been celebrating it, but it's Happy Earth Day today. So for those of you that celebrate and those of you that you don't, well, it's not that important to you. But I wanted to just let you know I've had a really strange week. So this week, last week it was really decided to go to the gym, and everything's open in the UK now. Well, semi-open. So went to the gym, started lifting weights, getting back into it. Was with my personal trainer actually, and got home and had a really funny turn. I mean, didn't feel well, didn't felt like my pulse was my heart was racing out my mouth, and ended up having to go to the emergency room on Sunday night. As you can see, I'm fine, I'm well, nobody knows what really happened, but I just think that it was a message for me to take it down a notch, take it a little bit easier, really tap into how I'm feeling and what's going on with me. And a lot's been going on, all good, all good. And the love of my life will be back in my arms soon. So maybe there's the anxiety of him coming back, and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. Oh, all of that, all of that. So I'm fine, I'm well, no need to worry about me, but all is good. And I just thought I'd share it with you. So hi to everyone that's on already. I know we've got quite a few people coming on tonight, so we're going to take our time and have the conversation. So as you may or may not remember, after I did my solo last week, my first solo show, I wanted to remind you that we're on season 3. Yeah, I can't believe it. Third season here. And this season is dedicated to international women. And I'm really, really proud of it because I've got a really nice mix of women from all over the world, all different ethnicities, different backgrounds, everything that you can imagine. But tonight, we are going to be speaking with and enjoying the company of Leidy Dahiana. Yes, you heard right. Her name is Leidy Dahiana. And I'll let her explain more to you. So let me welcome on Leidy. Leidy, come on up. Come on up.
Hola.
¿Qué tal?
¿Cómo estás? Preciosa, gorgeous, goddess.
Good to see you. Looking beautiful as usual. Oh my
God, thank you. And happy Earth Day to you as well. I didn't even know. So it's like amazing. I love more holidays, please. More things to celebrate.
And you know what? I've got lots of questions for you. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, which I meant to say before, you sent me some beautiful pictures to choose from for the marketing piece, and they were all stunning. Honestly, I really struggled with which one, but there was something about the position and the profile that left you wondering and wanting more and knowing more. And I just wanted to know more about the shoot. Like, why did you do it? How did it come about? Was there some reason behind it?
You know what's interesting? It's the magic lies in the unexpected. So with this whole photo shoot, and I'm always advertising workshops and things. So I just wanted some pictures that I can use in my business and just on social media. And we did the whole shoot. And at the end, when we were done, the photographer said, "Hey, do you mind if we play with a little bit of color? I have this idea," like totally thinking that I wasn't going to be into it. And I'm like, sure, of course. And he started throwing this, like, I love getting into things that I'm not ready for. Surprise really turns me on. So I was totally into it. And he starts throwing like this powder at me. And I was just like flirting with it. And like, just like, I was like, oh yes, no. And ironically, those became the only photos that I used in the entire photo shoot. So after 3 hours of shooting, I barely used any of the other photos. And these photos with the color, which to me signify and celebrate variety, the variety of colors, our different layers, who we are, who we pretend to be, when we hide, when we come out. So to me, it was just such a beautiful kind of representation of all those things that I find super juicy. So yeah, that's the story behind. And now I feel so bad. I can't remember the photographer, and he's great, but maybe at one point I'll, in the comments, I'll drop a link or something.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that, because I am typically, other than being a woman of color, I'm typically always about color. And it was just one of those days where I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to wear what I had on earlier. But normally I would be in the yellow or the orange or the red, or
Well, your lipstick is popping, so your lips are super juicy. I don't know if that's orange from my side, but it's
it's a mixture of a little bit of a ready
orange.
orange. Yeah. So please tell the audience, because I just can't wait for them to hear this. Where are you from and where do you live? And that can be, your heritage. It could be just where you lived, however you want to phrase that.
Yeah, I love this question because there's so many layers. So I was born in the Dominican Republic. I grew up in New York City. So I went to New York when I was about 8 years old. And then around 21, I traveled the world for about 8 years. So I lived in Thailand, Portugal, Japan, Australia, Turks and Caicos, like the list goes on and on. And I really felt like that really, my experiences got embedded in me, and it felt like, oh, wow, I really absorb a lot of those cultures. Even my accent changed significantly. And now I am living in Croatia. So I feel like I'm a mosaic of the world. If you ask me really where I'm from, I feel like I am a little bit of from all the places that I've been and all the people that I've met.
Wow. Kind of, your original home of DR and living in New York, where was your next best favorite place? Like where you felt yourself, like you came alive, or maybe come into being who you truly are. I don't know.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work for this company called Club Med. I don't know if anybody knows
well,
Club
I know
Med.
it. I'm American.
But they would send you to a different country every single season or year. So that's how I was able to travel to so many places. So I remember I was working in Portugal and they sent me to Thailand. And I spent a year and a half in Thailand. It was my longest contract. And I just felt while I was there, it wasn't Thailand itself, but I was like, I'm a Dominican girl living in Thailand, working for this international company. And I was doing circus at the time. I'm like, I work in circus. I live in Thailand. And it just felt so wild and fun to even talk about it. So I like many things about different countries, but that time in Thailand, I must have been like 23 years old, 24. It just felt like such a magical time, something that people talk about wanting to do. So I think it was definitely one of my favorite places to be in.
Wow. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, do you remember how we connect? I ask all my guests that.
You and I.
Yeah, how we connected.
Yes, of course. Well, one, I could never forget you because you're just magical and timeless. So I interviewed my Nikki. I didn't interview Nikki. Nikki invited me to be in her show. Nikki and Billy were on your show.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I they have a show on the amputee and his girl, and she has the Ladies First Chit Chat crew. So they invited me to go on their shows, and we had such an amazing time together. I know Billy from my time as a personal trainer and fitness instructor. There's a lot of careers. We'll go through them. And they mentioned that you interview them and how amazing you were, and they just talk so highly of you. And they said that you'll be reaching out. Little did I know that they could not have said more amazing things. I think the minute we started chatting and connecting and we saw each other, I think it was like an instant love story. Like, oh my God, I love Michelle. She's so great. And
and can I just tell you, they just said, And this is the beauty of connecting with people and really being genuine and authentic, because when you get someone and they get you and you help each other. And I was just talking to them before the interview and they said, oh, you've got to interview a woman. Oh my God. I was like, what does she do? So, oh yeah, I'm looking for someone who does it. No, but it's not just about what she does, it's who she is. And I said, that is what I'm about. Because a lot of my guests, when I invite them on the show, they want to talk business, and that is part of it. But I want to talk about, what makes you who you are, and why you're doing what you're doing, not so much the product, but more about you. And my whole thing is about self-love and self-care. So when they mentioned you, they just said, oh, Michelle, you just call her. That's all we're going to say. You're going to just love her. And as was born. So it was
Our
amazing.
souls connected. I felt like we felt our souls, and we have that like salsa, love for salsa background, and you have a Cuban lover, and like it was like, see, mommy, see.
What? You just take those. Let me calm down.
Take it off. I wish I had some hair to like whip it or.
So speaking of hair, because we ladies of color, hair is a big thing for us. And so one of the things that struck me as amazing was when I saw your picture, I was just like, oh my God, she literally has no hair. And she is fabulous, stunningly beautiful. Oh my goodness. Like you should be modeling so that people can see that hair isn't everything, and it's so great. So can you share with the audience what you told me about what your hair was like before, and why you changed it?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for celebrating me and seeing me. I love when us women can genuinely like love on each other. So I'm going to receive it, but I'm also super grateful for it because I know it's genuine. So
Yes.
gracias. Yeah, I had my initial, so Dominicans are supposed to have straight hair. Like Dominican salons are known for straightening natural hair, perming it. So I grew up with, I never even had a chance at my natural hair. Like it was this very straight, because there's a little bit of discrimination against natural hair. It's getting better, but you grew up thinking you had bad hair, right? So I grew up with this kind of like perm and straighten thing. And at one point when I was traveling, and it's funny, I'm like, I don't have time to be perming my hair and whatever. So I started letting it be natural, and I let it grow into this massive afro. And I got known for that. So people literally connected me to like my hair, and it was such a source of identity. But I've always loved to play, add layers, take off layers, and kind of just play with that dynamic in life. Like, what do I value? Let me take it off and see how I feel without it. So I explore with many hair colors and things like that. And at one point, after my husband passed away, my first husband, I just felt like I needed a big change. And, I just felt like I just want something different. And the afro was such a, maybe even a part of that past life. I don't know, even now talking about it, I don't think in the moment it was so thought out, but I knew that I needed something different. So I permed it again, actually those Japanese perms that is like mega straight. So I went backwards, and I did a super like trendy cut, like very Rihanna-ish back in the day. And then I just got hooked, and I was just cutting a little more and cutting a little more. And at one point I had like an inch of blonde and green or something. And I was like, I think it's time. And oh my God, Michelle,
Freeing.
I fell in love with it instantly. One, it freaked people out. Like if I'm with a girlfriend and she has long hair, we're lesbians and I'm the masculine one, obviously, because I don't have hair. People ask me if I have cancer, what happened. And I couldn't believe what an impact it caused on people. Like old ladies in Serbia would ask me, but why? Almost like, why did I do that disservice to myself? Like, why did you do it? And it's so playful that I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And people are so tripped up about the whole fucking hair thing. And I feel sexier than ever. I love playing with my masculine and my feminine. So to be like no hair and feel super like sexy is like orgasmic. So
yeah. And it's it's about that letting go of what was once and coming into what is to become, because we don't always know what that is, even if we think we know what it will be. So, I love that. And, as you said, sadly, the loss of your husband, but I know that sometimes when you have a big loss in your life like that, you just feel like you've got to almost like break out, just shed that old skin and be reborn, I guess. I don't know. I think it's, everyone's journey is very different, but when it's that massive,
Yeah.
it's got to be huge. So that was just a beautiful change in many ways, I guess, and a
Yeah.
transition, I guess, is maybe a better word also, a transitioning from who and where you were to not necessarily where you are now, because I don't know if that, I can't wait to hear the rest of the story.
But don't get me wrong, when I see you and at the beginning we're like whip it, like sometimes when I'm dancing, I whip my head as if I had hair.
Oh, we all, I think it's that thing, when your hair's short, you enjoy it and then you want it longer. When it's longer, you're like, yeah, it's great, but now it's getting on my nerves. And so I'm
Yeah.
constantly changing. I mean, one of my friends emailed me from the States the other day and said, "You've had that hairstyle for a long, not this one, the one before. You've had that hairstyle for a long time. You need to change it." I was like, "Okay, thank you." Again, always can rely on your homegirls back home to keep it real. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm doing a little
Yeah.
bit now, but who knows what I'll be looking like in the next month? I'm going to be changing it up." So thank you so
I
much.
love it because the picture that you sent me has like a different one, and then this. So I love the variety as
Yeah.
well. Don't get me wrong, my mom hates it. She thinks she has lost her only daughter. I have three brothers. I'm the only girl. I'm the youngest one. And I cannot believe how important it is to her, Michelle. Like, she is still devastated. I've had this maybe for like 8 years now. And she is depressed over it.
But we have to remember that our parents come from a time and place where
Yeah.
that sort of defines so much of who you are.
Yeah.
And we're in a place and world where we don't define ourselves by hair only. We define ourselves by so many different things, So
Yeah.
it's just amazing that you share that with us. And anybody in the audience, if you've experienced something like that, please share it with us. Just interjecting for a moment. We have Ora in the audience who's saying that playing with both energies, masculine and feminine, it's fire. And mixing them together is just great energy. Somebody else in the audience says, "You look beautiful." And just trying to see if there's anything that really sort of jumps out, because they're all really cool. Just that they're, really happy to be here and checking you out. So I wanted to talk a bit about I'm going to say your passion, but maybe it's not. But, how did Leidy Dahiana coaching come about? How did you become a sex and transformational coach and speaker? What was that journey like? How did it happen?
Girl.
Hold on, hold on.
I'm like, I don't know. You need to tell a short version of this story. But yeah, I think I was always interested in coaching. I taught dance and movement for a long time, but I think deep down I was very interested more in the psychology of progress, and movement became a way for progress, like the way things move and how we evolve. So I think from a very young age, I always had that in me. I remember my friends telling me, "I don't want to be your project. I don't want you to analyze me." Like, I was always trying to like figure things out and like, but what's the root of the issue? So that went along with me for a long time. And after so many years of teaching movement, I started transitioning a little bit into like motivational speaking and life coaching. So it went from me like training people to be like, "Hey, let's train for 45 minutes and then let's chat for 45 minutes," because I really thought that just working on people's bodies wasn't enough.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just put a pin on that has always been like a part of my life. But what happened to me is that I had many relationships over, let's say, like a 24-year span, 25-year now.
Mm.
And And I'm a very passionate person. I need a lot of stimulation. I get bored very easily. Like I've always been like a hungry witch.
I love it.
And my body has always been, and I think I explore many layers of that in my careers and travel. So I fed that part of myself. But I had to be honest that in my relationships, I never felt fully fulfilled. And I had a tendency to cheat. Um, I just had a tendency, was like a year and a half to 3 years, I would get bored and then I would start making excuses and stray. Um, so I was very curious around why is that? Like why does new relationship energy end? Why does passion
Mm,
end? I remember thinking, why don't my parents make out? Why don't I see older people make out? So these questions were always in the background, and I almost didn't want to give up on the fact that it cannot be that we have to get used to monotony and boredom, and that once you have kids and you get married, you're supposed to not have sex. Like there's like jokes around this and statistics about how marriage is like death. So after being a serial cheater for many years, I transitioned into open relationships to see if maybe that would solve the issue of
okay.
me not feeling fulfilled. And I realized that even my second marriage was monogamous at the beginning, and then I turned into an open marriage for the past few years. Um, I was still not satisfied, so I could sleep with whoever I wanted, and there was still a void. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought what I needed was more people. I have all the freedom. I have a husband that loves me. I love him. I sleep around. What is it? And in that transition, I became interested in couples coaching, but it didn't hit the spot. And I remember, I don't know if you know Esther Perel.
Yeah.
So Esther Perel has a group called Sessions, and she interviews people that have inspired her. And she interviewed a woman by the name of Jaya Ma, and she was talking about her sexuality coaching program. And I was like, that's it. I need to know what's going on there underneath the sheets, where people are hiding, where people are not talking about. And I
Mm.
decided to join that program, and it just changed my life in a way so deep that I cannot even explain. I ended up leaving my husband, my second husband. Keep count, right?
Okay, we're number two.
Okay, we're number two.
Right.
This is why I have some street credit over here. And I ended up meeting another wonderful, juicy, delicious, cock body human being. And I offered him like, hey, let's have an open relationship. Because in my mind, I was like, this doesn't work, and I really liked him. So I was like, let's set ourselves up for a win. Let's not limit us to monogamy. And he said no, like a hard no. And I was like, one, I was not used to people saying no to me, right? Manipulative little Dominican here. So it was like all happening simultaneously. I was developing myself as a coach, finding out all these things, bringing those tools to our relationship. He didn't want to have an open relationship with me, so I had to be monogamous, and I didn't want to cheat and lie anymore. I think as I got older, it just became something that it's not something good to do. Like it's fun, and it's also like you're not helping the planet when you're lying and cheating. And I started like just coaching different couples and practicing my lover, and I just fell in love because by discovering my own sexuality, I exploring it, getting curious about it, really studying it, I became so much more confident. I became more complete as a human being. That void that I was trying to fill with more cocks and more threesomes and more experiences was filled by something deeper within me in this self-exploration. I started making more money. I started having better relationships. It just had such an impact. And I'm like, people need to know about this. I literally came full circle. And to be honest, now I feel that it is one of the biggest sources. Like if you want to contribute anything to the world, and I know this may sound strange, but bear with me. go inward and become erotically empowered. And you're going to see the kind of fuel that that gives to your life, to your activism, to how you help, to how you show up. It's like a crazy battery. And I feel like it's untapped. We're looking for other sources of fuel. And God damn it, we wouldn't be here without erotic energy. If someone didn't get horny and made things happen.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
So that's a little bit of like how I got here.
That's so powerful and so interesting because, you know, when you talk about erotically, I've forgotten how I wrote it down. I can't read my writing, but I was just thinking about that. You know, what was the expression used?
Erotically empowered.
Empowered, yes. So, you know, I teach sometimes about sexual transmutation, you know, taking that sexual energy and turning it into something more creative, bigger than you ever thought, you know, taking that energy and transferring it and moving it into a different area. And I just wonder when people come on your courses or they come to be coached, do they come to you with, you know, oh, I'm in a relationship and I can't do this, or I'm vaginally dry, or he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that, and are you sort of saying, okay, wait, that's not where we're going to start, actually, that's not really what this is about? And are they sort of, because I get that as a relationship coach, you know, they come with their, I always put my accordion file of who they want to find and what the perfect man looks like and all this other stuff, and I'm often saying, well, yeah, we'll get to that, but that's not where we're going to start. So
Yeah.
do you find that as part of your coaching is something that you have to do, sort of almost reprogram somebody in the way that they think?
You are so on it, Michelle, but you know, because you're you know, it seems that it's about sex and it's actually not, and it is, right? But I call it like foundations or like the soil. I like to talk about the soil, you know? So maybe the act is the actual tree. But on what soil are you planting this tree? And you are the soil, your subconscious belief, your limited beliefs, your conditioning, how you grew up. And that bleeds into every area of your life. If you grew up not feeling worthy, not feeling enough, there's no way that you're going to open your capacity to receive. And it could be receive pleasure, receive money, receive respect, receive ascension. So I think the foundation is, you know, where do we come from? How many limited beliefs did people put in us without our choice? Because, you know, when we're small, we're just absorbing our parents, our environment, and really becoming intentional. You know, I don't want to believe that I'm not worthy of 3 hours of sex. I want to choose that I am. Forget what
Anybody
I
else?
experience. Yeah. So to me, it's about becoming very intentional in choice and becoming the architect of your life, independent of whatever people created for you in the past. So I feel like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We need foundations. And the tips and the tricks are like the cherry on top, but you are the cake. And the ingredients that you come into this world with are very important because they each have a taste.
That's right. I love
Yeah.
that. I love your analogy because that is really, you know, if we looked at sex differently, we would speak about it differently, I think. You know, again, depending on how you were raised. I remember when I was probably about 24, 25, I dated this hot 18-year-old Brazilian, and his family was just so open. And I was sort of like, oh my God, like what's going on here? Because not that my family was super reserved, but we weren't like that. You know, his mum was walking around half dressed and she was in the samba band and, you know, she was very sexy, very hot. And his father was this, you know, very serious professor, but very, very lovely. And very, when I say serious, I mean, studious is a better word. He wasn't serious. He was lovely.
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, and they just had this whole other attitude. And I remember it didn't work out, but later on, you know, I remained friends with them for a little while. And they would say to me, you know, we totally encouraged him, you know, when he was ready to have sex, to bring whoever he wanted to the house. And I was like, really? Really? Yeah, because we'd rather know what he's doing. We'd rather be part of making sure that he was safe and that he was clean and things would be in a certain way, and that whoever he brings here comes into this loving environment, that they know that we're about love, and this is all about pleasure and happiness for us. That this is not, they didn't separate it. And I think that's what happens in a lot of cultures, right? It's sex is over here, marriage is over there, children's over there, all these different things. But for them, it was just all sort of, a mixture. It was all part of being who they were. And I was just like, wow, I love this. That's when I fell in love with the whole Latin culture. It started there. I was like,
yeah. Well, Brazilians are so freaking juicy. Like they're like this tiny little thong and they're hot asses. It's just like hard to take. But yeah, I feel like when we start compartmentalizing parts of our life, whatever it is, you have to wonder why now we feel so disconnected from ourselves, from the world. Like when we start putting things in a drawer, putting things aside, not now, not this, not pleasure, it's gonna add up and it's gonna show up somewhere in your life. Because I think, and I don't know if anybody resonates with this or you, at the end, you wanna feel whole, complete, connected. And if there's like a part of you that is like all the way over there, it's like walking around without a limb, without a leg, and I feel that the more we start to honor that sex is sacred and beautiful and amazing, and that it is a part of everything we do and who we are, I think then we can begin to ascend as a planet.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And Eagle here is saying, fantastic. Thank you. Joanne, fierce. When you get it, you become a powerhouse. Love it.
Joanne.
SJ said, sex is super important. When you have great, passionate sex, you feel alive and invincible. And I think that's a really good word as well, SJ. Invincible. You do. You just feel on top of the world. You're like, oh, I'm like Superwoman. I can fly here. I can fly there. I can do, what do you need? What can I do? I can do it. I
can do anything.
I know for me personally, sex has always been something for me that was a way of connecting with my partner. For me, it wasn't something necessarily separate. It was an addition to connecting. It's like that intimate space when you're just literally like tuning in, really, really connecting. And I found that when I didn't have that, which was okay, because sometimes I was just having a fling with somebody, so that was fine. But when I was truly in a loving relationship, that was a big part for me. And when that wasn't there anymore, then there wasn't a relationship. So, I get exactly what you're saying. But before, let's more about some of the.
But let me add a little layer to what you just said, because you said something very interesting. Like if we were talking about foundations, right, in connection with another, I would say that connection with yourself, pleasure with yourself when a lover doesn't exist, it's even the foundation to the foundation. Because if you only find the connected experiences with another, you're already missing a big piece. So I know that self-pleasure and masturbation has all kinds of, people get all kinds of thoughts about it. But honoring and cultivating a relationship with yourself first, an intimate one, it's beyond. And I think sometimes we're always depending on another, to kind of feel that. And then, like you said, but when another is not present, circumstantially, illness, whatever, a country you're in, then you're unable to fill that void. And I am about self-sufficiency. I love to connect with others, but there needs to be like a self-sufficient pleasure system happening within me. So when I even show up with a lover, I'm already at a different level. He doesn't have to fill me up. He can only complement the juiciness that is already fucking happening here.
I love it. And this is what I teach, is self-love and self-care. You start with self. Once you're solid, I use a tree analogy often. You're a tree and you're rooted and planted, and things will happen and you'll sway and you'll go back and forth. But at the end of the day, you'll be still standing strong, because you're rooted within yourself. You're loving yourself in a way that maybe nobody else can love you. So I totally understand what you're saying. I totally get it. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because so many people don't get that. They're chasing this other person, expecting them to fulfill not even just their sex lives, but everything else. When they say, oh, you complete me. Does somebody else really complete you? Do you
Never
want
can
somebody to
happen.
complete you? Don't you want to complete yourself? And then they're an add-on, they're an addition, they enhance you, is what I normally say. I want somebody to enhance me, not take away or fill.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's so beautiful that you expect that you're explaining that. And speaking of intimacy, this is a really important one. The question that was asked of me to ask of you, which I really was, how do you create intimacy? And is it different creating intimacy for yourself versus creating it in a relationship?
Amazing question. I love it when people like send questions, because it's like,
Oh, no. On a page.
so I'm going to take my time and drink a little bit of water and just enjoy the liquid. Like, Yeah. So, first of all, I want to say that any concept that we go into, it's always multi-layered, and just because of time, we'll do our best to give the most important pieces. But things are always, I call them like a braid. So, for me, cultivating anything, but let's say intimacy, starts with an awareness first. Where are you? How does it feel to be where you are at? What are you craving? So there's like an awareness and a self-inquiry. Do you feel alive? Do you feel fulfilled? So I think getting curious about who you are, what makes you feel alive, and whether those things are accessible to you consistently, I think is a great place to start. And I work with something called the erotic blueprints, which is identifying what is your individual erotic personality. We live in a culture where we think sex is what we see in a porn movie, in the movies. Like when I see sex scenes in movies, I am so disappointed just because it feels very one dimension. And I'm like, but there's so many layers, and what happened to the turn on, and when did she get wet? And like there's so many that it's just not expressed in its hugeness. It feels really limited to me. So I feel like getting curious about who you are, independent of who you've been, what you have practiced or allowed yourself to practice. So all that to say, awareness and self-inquiry are the first steps, and there's different methods to get into that. And then you start to see, because we're all so individual. So I don't know for who is Michelle innately, what turns her on? Has she ever received that? Has she ever cultivated that? So I think those are the first steps to starting to get to know yourself. Yeah.
And I love that. Like, has she ever received that? What if you don't know? What if you know something's missing innately? You know something's not right, but you don't know because either you've not had enough experiences to sort of say, well, I know this happened, and this didn't, so maybe it's that. Or you've just not had that many experiences at all. Maybe you've only been with one person, let's say, for 20 years. And now you're on this new journey of figuring out what life is like as a single woman or a single person, because I know there's some men listening tonight. So as a single person, and you're trying to find your way again.
Yeah. So it's interesting that when we want to get better at business, we'll take a course, right? Or when we want like to get really fit, but we know that we need support, we'll get a personal trainer. So in society, we have accepted support from very specific areas. A business coach is okay, a marketing coach, a financial advisor. But sex and intimacy, as important as they are, society has told us no. What's wrong with you that you need help in that area of life? So it almost feels like it's the only area of life that you're supposed to figure it out on your own. Nobody's supposed to talk about it. It's supposed to just expand and evolve with any practice or study. So, so to me, is becoming a visionary. Ooh, this part of my life feels empty, feels small, doesn't, you know, your soul is going to tell you, no matter whether you listen to it or not, you're going to feel it. Am I willing to become a student of the art of getting to know myself and my eroticism? And there doesn't even need to be anything wrong. Do I want to evolve? Do I
Right.
want to take something to the next level? So I think, you know, it's like raising a child. It takes a village, and we're so ashamed around support. You know, I'm glad mental health is getting a little bit more like it's
Yeah.
okay to see a therapist, but sex, intimacy, relationships, I don't know if you find this in your practice, there is still a little bit of taboo, and it's like, don't tell anybody we're working together,
Yes. Yes.
you know? And for me, it's, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, even with testimonials, I don't normally even put people's names on it because I don't really want anyone to know, or I don't want them to feel uncomfortable if somebody, because as you said, immediately it gives a connotation that something's wrong with
Something's
me,
wrong.
or
Yeah.
something's wrong in my marriage or relationship. No one thinks that it could be me just exploring, wanting to, like,
Yeah.
if you want to learn, like me, I want to learn Spanish. I go to college and I take a Spanish class and I learn. If I said somebody, oh, I'm taking a sex class right now, they'd be like, oh,
You know, they put their taboos on you. So it's interesting. Like the bigger reaction I get, I'm like, I see
mhm,
you, you know. But I want to send a lot of love and compassion. We've been conditioned, you know, we talking about it has not been, it's like we're very open about nudity, physical nudity, but
mm,
we're not very open about soul nudity, vulnerability, really opening our hearts and our souls. So it's like really embracing that kind of intimacy, and just embracing support. It's amazing to have someone that you trust to support you in such an important part of your life. Like the best athletes and business people in the world have coaches.
right. That's probably why they are where they are.
So I don't know, but I grew up as a Latina. Getting a coach is something that we'll say is, and forgive my expression, is a blanquito thing to do, like a white people thing to do.
Yeah.
Literally, you know, like we are not the ones that get coaches. We're not the ones that get mentors and support. That's for somebody else. So I had to break that generational kind of, man,
Wow.
I am taking so many courses and mentorship programs. I'm like, yes, I want to be better, better. And there's a new course. Yes, I want to learn. I want to get better.
Intended.
And I get super excited. So I want to also just kind of, let's come together. Let's talk about it. Let's get better. Let's talk about our challenges, our fails, because they're all part of the journey to expansion.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Oh my goodness. And what about men? What if you as a woman, you've reached all of that, right? You're comfortable with who you are, your mind is in a great place, you're excited, you're loving life, you're loving your sex life, but the person you're with isn't comfortable exploring. They're just comfortable doing one thing all the time, or they might cross the line a little bit, but they're kind of like, well, if you do that, that makes you, a bit slutty. So you're not my wife. You're not wife material, or you're not, the girl I can take home to my family, or whoever it is. So, what do you say to men that are having, well, women that have men in their lives that they feel could do with your support, really?
Yeah. And I know you're saying men, but it could be men or women. I've been with both men or women, and like the masculine and the feminine shows up in both. So I can be in a very masculine role, and another woman could be and even with a man. So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
I say the first thing is to know not to take it personal. Like someone, because there's two things happening. You have your own conditioning, your own trauma, your own baggage, and they have their own conditioning, their own trauma. And sometimes you can meet if you haven't healed those parts. So, first of all, everyone needs to take responsibility for their own healing on the journey to expansion. And I think when we try to save our lovers, pick
Mm,
up their slack, it's a disservice to them, because we're not empowering them. Like for me to say I need to save you, I'm actually telling you that you don't know how to empower yourself. Like how dare I underestimate your ability to grow? So I think the first thing is just don't take it personal and allow the person to take responsibility. Oh wow, you have a belief that if I do this to you, I am acting like a slut. I am curious where you learned that. I am
Mm.
curious where that came from. Where did you first hear that? So, not taking it personal and having compassion that your journeys may not go at the same pace. Because I think judging and criticism are the biggest turn on killers. When we start blaming, pointing fingers, you don't do this, or you're already not starting at a point where you can get turned on and get juicy. So I think if we can just start in the middle with a lot of compassion that we both have our conditioning and our issues, not trying to save the other person, you know? And I would say maybe invite them to a workshop. Hey, maybe you should come to a workshop with me and see, but let them have their own experience. I think when we try to save our lovers, you know, it's just it never works. So inviting them to different classes, telling them, giving them information, but letting them take their own ownership, because at the end of the day, you need willingness. This is a learning process like any other, and if you're not willing and interested, it's just not gonna happen, you know.
And speaking of workshops, I know you've got a really great workshop coming up this Saturday.
Yay!
Can you tell us the timing, what it's about? Oh,
yeah. Oh my God, thank you for asking. Yes. So all my workshops are free. So even me making it this accessible to people, it's to me is very valuable, because, you know, their excuse can be like, I don't have money or this. So it's called Mind Blow Monogamy, and it's going to be on Saturday. And it's really, I go into the 5 main blocks to having a mind-blowing monogamous relationship. You know, why you're not having more passionate sex, are you getting bored, you know, why you feel disconnected. So you spoke a little bit about how do you start. I think looking at our blind spots and those limited beliefs that are happening in the background. Why does a person think that you're going to be a slut? Like, so I go into the 5 main blocks that I find get in the way of people really expanding. And then I talk a little bit about the blueprints, which is tools to get to know yourself a little better, and tools to get to know different styles. Like, there's 5 different blueprints, you know? So it's like, and they're like languages. Like, I speak English, but it'll be nice to learn a little bit of Spanish if my lover speaks Spanish and you know a little bit about this. So it's the same with the erotic language. I am a sexual, but if my lover is an energetic or a kinky, how cool would it be for me to learn about that blueprint, that language, so we can both communicate, you know? So it's for women only this time, but nothing against my cock body folks. If you're interested in the workshop, I have a recording from the last one that I did, which was for everyone. So if there's any cock body people here and they're interested, I'd be more than happy to send them the recording. But if you're a woman and if you're even interested in mind-blowing monogamy, you know, or even just expanding intimacy and sex, to be honest, these tools, you can use them even for business.
You know, I think there's also, when people hear the word monogamy, oftentimes it sounds very rigid. And do we actually really know what it is? Because again, it's conditioning. It's what we've heard, what we've seen on TV, what we've seen in magazines. So I'm really curious about that. And Orisa, it's a great tip, being curious about other people's conditioning, especially when it comes to sex.
Yeah. This is not your grandparents' monogamy. This is like visionary. I think I said it. I had an interview yesterday and I call it monogamy 200.0. Like, this is next level. It's not what we've seen. What, you know, it's how do we take it to the next level? How do we blow our freaking minds? I don't want good sex, great sex. I want mind-blowing sex consistently. Who wants that?
I think I'm going to see if I can put this. I don't think I can put it in the group. I will put the link in the group. When the show is over. And can you tell me what time? Yeah,
so it's 7 p.m. Central European time. So I'm in Croatia, 7 p.m. for me. That will be 8 p.m. UK time. Wait, no, sorry. 6 p.m. Yeah. I'm pregnant, so my brain is just not working. So it would be 6 p.m. UK, 7 p.m. Central Eastern. And I'm going to tell you what I tell my lovers. Take ownership of your interests. Look up your time zone converter if you're really interested.
Just tell me what time it is in Central Time and European time. So 7 till
7 to 8:15. So it's an hour and 15 minutes. It used to be 3 hours, but I'm making it shorter so just people can come, So and it'll be great. It'll be a great conversation started to leave and then maybe have with your lover or even friends. So it's gonna be juicy.
I love it. And as she just quietly slipped in there, she's very pregnant and looking so beautiful and gorgeous. What can we say? I'm excited for you.
I'm a balloon.
And you're due roughly when?
I'm gonna keep that a secret.
Okay, all right. Well,
but for no reason, just to tease and be playful.
Hey, this is what we're learning about. This is what we're going to learn more about. And you know what? I have a few questions here, but I think that maybe some of these will be answered in your workshops. I'm just going to run by you. But one of the guests had asked about, when you've not been in a relationship for a long time, you may be a little bit older. So their concern was around safe sex. And it wasn't about it being safe in terms of, I'm not going to be attacked, but, feeling safe. And even though you're being very exposed all of a sudden for the first time, and being with somebody who's considerate about that. And if they don't understand that, because a lot of men may feel like, oh, great, we're going to have some great sex. And you're kind of like, wait a minute, it's been a while. I need somebody who can understand that and take the time. So do you have any advice around that at all? I just wonder.
Yeah. So I'm gonna beat it. I'm gonna beat that horse. It starts with you. The more comfortable that you start to get with your challenges and who you are, the less shame there is around expressing that, right? So if I'm just gonna, I haven't had sex in a few years and I'm feeling a little apprehensive, but I'm also curious and willing to learn. Can we just take this a little slower? I recommend having so much conversation before. This is not to judge anyone, but we take our clothes too fast and we haven't even talked about vulnerability. So if you're more comfortable taking your clothes off than telling someone that you need them to slow down or that you need a little bit more patience or that you're in a journey, you're doing it backwards because in the moment, it's a lot harder to navigate those challenges. So I would recommend a lot of conversation before. If someone really is interested in you, it's like, hey, how has your experience been? Tell me something about your sexuality so I can better understand you. It's a beautiful question for a first date or before you sleep with someone. So let's talk a little more. And of course, if you come to my workshop, I'll give you more tools on how to get more confident and more comfortable with who you are. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And when you model being confident with a challenge, hey, people love that. Everybody's waiting for permission to be vulnerable. So just be first. I'm oversimplifying it, but I got you. Come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, we're just running out of time. I can't believe it.
I'm curious about what you would say to that question because you're a relationship coach and you're amazing. So I would love to know I'm like, we're running out of time, but I want to know a little bit of what do you think,
Yeah, I mean, for me, I tend to go from a perspective of, are you having those kind of conversations about what it's going to be like, even just exploring like what does sex feel like for you? How important is it to you as the other person? Is it something that is a priority in a relationship? Does it if I can't have sex every night, it's a problem? Just trying to get inside the mind of the other person a little bit, just trying to find out where they are and then sharing where I am. Because one of the things I want people to do when they're in a relationship is talk about or embark in a relationship is discussing what their needs are. And I love that question because people will talk about, well, I need someone to pay the bills. And I was like, no, that's a want. That's not necessarily, well, it could be a need if you're desperate, but I think if you say that to somebody on a date, they're like, you need me to pay your mortgage? Okay,
It
that's
happens.
not really the right way to go about it. But if you're talking about some things that you need to fulfill you, I mean, for me, with my partner, it was, I need a man to love me in the way, because I love myself. I need you to love me in the way that only a man can love me. That is what I need for me. I can pay my bills. I can do all that other stuff. But that's the one thing I'm looking, somebody who can really love me and show me and tell me how they feel about me, not
Yeah.
afraid or uncomfortable with those words. And well, he's Latino, so he's like, okay, that's easy. What else?
Mami, te quiero.
Exactly. But many men would have been like, oh, well, and I know I asked him, well, what are your needs? And he was just sort of like, I don't really have any. I said, really? You come back to me on that one. Because it's something that
Yeah.
people don't ask, they don't think about. So what
Yeah.
are your needs, and what is it that you really need out of this relationship or in a relationship? And that will evolve and change over time as that relationship becomes more comfortable. You need different things, or you may have a need to, like with you might say, look, I'm in Croatia with you now, but I need to go home 3 times every year, no matter what. Kids, no kids, whatever. I need to go home 3 years. That is a need. It's what fulfills me. Get in touch with my culture, my people, my food, whatever it is. But you have to really think about what that really means, because everyone's needs are different, and sometimes you're not even really sure of what your need is, and that's what I work with people on. What they really
Totally.
need isn't necessarily what they really need.
Like when they come for coaching, they think it's like, okay, the problem is that I can't get it on, or like I can't orgasm. And then we go, and the issue is actually 30 layers deeper, back 15 years ago when something happened. So it's a beautiful journey. It has layers and everything, but even now I'm discovering, as a pregnant woman wanting to have sex, my needs are different than when I didn't have this stomach. Like my hormones were not out of control. Like, so like we're always changing, and it's kind of adapting and embracing who we are moment to moment, so.
And I think also communicating that with your partner as well, I'm feeling this way right now, or, normally I'm up for this, but right now I'm not. And this is why, just communicating that, because sometimes we just make assumptions. Oh, this person, oh, he's in a bad mood or she's in a bad mood. Yeah, but what are they going through? And it may not be what it seems. It may be something completely different, as you said. So just try. And I think that's the bigger thing is having the communication, but trying to get your point across, because the other person may not even get there. They might be in shock, like, what are you talking about? So they're not even really listening. I didn't know there was a problem. There's a problem. I didn't know, problem all of a sudden. And you're trying to explain and maybe feeling uncomfortable, but move from the discomfort to the comfort, and that vulnerability that you need to ride that vulnerable wave to get to the result that you're really looking for. And it, as you always said, it takes time.
It takes time. And even saying communication, like, oh, just talk more. Like, so I teach a lot of ways how to talk to different people, how to create containers for conversation. It's not like, let's just talk about sex. People get stuck in that. What is the best way that we can talk about this topic? What language works for you? What language works for me? It's almost like, let's have a conversation before the conversation to set up the conversation.
Yeah. And setting the mood in terms of not sexually, but maybe, look, I'm gonna make a picnic and we're gonna go out and go for a walk. And then when we're sitting down, really relaxed and chilling in and enjoying that summer breeze or that cool spring air, then you ask that question, and it's just a very soft, again, it's all in the delivery as well, right? Just being really soft, like, honey, something's on my mind and I want to run something by you. Okay, because they're open and they're chilled with it. And
By the way,
yeah.
I want more.
Oh my God. Well, listen, I know I want more, and I know our guests are just saying it's beautiful and they're really excited. And somebody else is saying that, we have to save this live session and post it so others can have a chance to hear it, who can benefit from this. And this is the conversation that we need to be having more of. But unfortunately, there's I don't even know if there's fear around it. It's just discomfort. I think it's more discomfort. Maybe it's fear, but I think it's conditioning of, you know, the certain things you talk about and certain things you don't talk about, and that's part of
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to just say that, you know, join her session. I'm going to be there. So if you guys, you know, and sign up, I'll take my spot. Okay, I got to sign up tonight before I forget.
Time flew. I can't believe we have been on for an hour. I cannot believe it.
I know. And there were so many more questions. So I may have to have you back because there's so many things we want to ask you. But, you know, thank you so, so much for your time, for staying up so late. It's a time difference for you. You know, you're with a beautiful baby coming and, you know, you need your rest. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing and allowing us into your world and learning more about the beautiful work that you do and that you're delivering, and the amount of people that you're probably making so happy and transforming, because that's what you're doing, you're transforming lives. It's a beautiful, beautiful, privileged position to be in. Yeah, I
Oh my
thank
God, muchísimas gracias, Michelle. Thank you.
you.
I see you. I love you. I am grateful for you and everybody here, because the more we do this, the more we can take the shame away and just, like, you know, peel the curtain and have a fucking party underneath. I'm a party mouth.
It's okay. We'll just make sure it's X-rated when we post it. No worries, my love. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful sleep. We'll see you. Well, I'll see you on Saturday. And
Yeah, please
one
come.
really important question. Oh, this person will kill me if I don't ask you. They asked, how do they study to be a sex coach if they want to be a coach?
Yeah. So, you know, there's certifications, and if you come to the workshop or you DM me, I can tell you a little bit more about the certification that I took. But it's literally like most careers. You just pick the one that you're more interested in. You know, there's kink coaches, there's intimacy coaches, relationship. So message me, and I'll be more than happy to, because the certification itself can change your life even if you don't become a coach.
And that's what's so
Just
cool about it. Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just learning on a deep level is like
Yes.
life changing. So
Fantastic.
we can talk a little more, or I'll come back and we'll have another party.
And Aura says, gracias, chicas. Me encanta todo, todito.
Todito, muchísimas gracias a todos.
Thank you, my darling. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I take myself out.
We'll take it. Oh, she did it. Okay. The expert there. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that stayed an hour, I'm so excited. But don't forget to sign up for the Mind Blown Monogamy workshop on Saturday. And I will repost that in the group right after this so that you guys can sign up and get on board after I do it. Just kidding. I don't know. I'll put it in right away. Enjoy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, look, we've got someone to see you on Saturday. Thank you so much for joining. And as I always say, be joyful. I can't even focus now. Be joyful, be connected, and shine your light. Good night.